Welcome to Fandom Post Radio. I am Kestrel Swift, and if you've listened to our podcast before, you've probably heard me repeat a few things several times. One of them is that I consider a composer to be one of the three most important people involved in an anime, along with the director and the writer. Another is that I always talk about my favorites of every category and always rank my favorites. So as you might expect, a third thing that I always talk about is who my favorite composer is. And as I've always said, that is Yoshihisa Hirano. And he's done the music for series like Hunter x Hunter, Death Note, Hajime no Ippo New Challenger, Hajime no Ippo Rising, many more. And so it is my great pleasure to introduce our guest, Yoshihisa Hirano. Hirano-san, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Hello, well, you're welcome. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, so speaking of which, people might be surprised to hear you speaking English if they're not familiar with your background, but you have spent some time in the United States. You studied composition at the Eastman School of Music in New York after having self-taught before that in Japan. So tell me how that all came about and what experience you had with the English language before coming to the US, how much you had to learn while you were here, and if you think that those experiences and that knowledge has changed anything or impacted your life since then.
Well, before I went to the United States, I couldn't speak English at all. Well, I learned English in the United States. And reason why I went to the United States is, well, I just wanted to study composition academically in a conservatories or college or anywhere. And, well, actually, I was self-taught composer until I was 20. And I was born and grew up in a very, very small town in West Japan. And well, fortunately, I had a violin teacher. I started to play the violin when I was around 5. But I couldn't find any music theory and composition teachers in my hometown, so I was self-taught. It's hardly possible to get in good music school, music colleges in Japan without knowledge and music theory and piano scale and ear training and stuff like that. And I had no chance to study such kind of things when I was in my hometown. And but I found that the music college in America would accept you if you are good enough. They don't care about they don't care how much knowledge, music theory knowledge you have, or if you are a good pianist or anything. If you are a good composer, that's all they care. I really like that, so I tried to get in American music school. So I decided to go to the United States. Then finally, I was accepted by the Eastman School. So yeah.
Yeah, that's very impressive that you had taught yourself composition until you were 20 and then also had to teach yourself a completely new language while in a country that almost exclusively speaks it.
Yeah, so
it's a lot.
Yeah, but it was a long time ago, so I forgot English. I hardly speak English now. So
so yeah, and all the time since then, have you had many opportunities to brush up on your English, or obviously you went back to Japan and have been working there for the most part, but I've been impressed by your English from when I met you at a convention last year. So how much English have you spoken since college?
Well, Actually, it was more than around 20 years ago. Just I haven't spoken English for a long time, and recently I have some chance to speak English, so it's coming back. But really, I'm not very sure about my English now. So if I say something kind of stupid, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think it's impressive that you're able to return to it after almost 20 years of not having spoken it at all. So, yeah, I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, in your music, you can hear a lot of influences from nearly all periods of classical music, a lot of your own original ideas, all woven together. So, who were some of your favorite or most inspirational classical and contemporary composers? And are there any fellow film or anime composers of the past or present that you especially admire?
I love Johann Sebastian Bach the most. He's definitely my hero. And just as I said, I started to play the violin when I was 5, and I was in love with baroque music when I was around 10 or 10 years old. Then I really wanted to compose music like that, baroque music like concerto grossos of Vivaldi or pieces of Johann Sebastian Bach, but I had no idea what to do with it because I just played the violin and I couldn't read even a bass clef at the time. So Johann Sebastian Bach, he gave me a lot of inspiration, and also I found jazz music when I was in high school. So at the time, Miles Davis or Thelonious Monk, John Coltrane, they were my heroes. Then I found Shostakovich. When I heard his Seventh Symphony, I still remember. I just thought, well, maybe I can die if I can write music like that, something like that. I just felt like that. So after hearing Shostakovich, I made up my mind to study composition academically in any college. Then when I was in Eastman, I listened to a lot of contemporary music, and for instance, like Toru Takemitsu, he's a Japanese composer, and he composed a lot of film music as well, like Ram of Kurosawa, or so many film music. He became one of my heroes too. I really loved his music at the time. And film composers, I admire Jerry Goldsmith. He's great composer, especially as his score for The Planet of Ape or Omen.
Mm-hmm.
They are just classic. It's masterpiece. Yeah.
And how about any anime composers? Are there any of them that you're familiar with and big fans of?
Well, actually, when I returned to Japan, at the time I had no knowledge in anime music, but one day I met Mr. Takayuki Hattori. He's one of the most outstanding composers in Japan now, and he taught me a lot of things about film music, anime music, and I personally consider he's kind of my mentor, and just like I said, he's a great composer, and I really love his scores. So I should say he's one of my favorite Japanese composers.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great to hear. I'll definitely have to look into all of these people a lot more. I've certainly heard of some of them, but Yeah, I'll definitely have to spend more time really digging into their music. So, taking inspiration from these great composers of the past, how do you balance taking that inspiration with creating your own original work, um, and establishing your own signature style, but not becoming repetitive or kind of making the same music over and over? So, are any of these things that you have to think about while you're composing, or does it all just come naturally?
I've never thought about that, that thing, quite frankly. I never, um, kind of care about the balancing between inspirations from other composers and my own.
Mhm.
Actually, I'm not very afraid of getting influence from other composers, and if they give me a good hint or good inspirations, I accept them, all of them, and try to compose another music. And try to compose my own music. And well, maybe I'm taking some balance when I got such inspirations from other composers or other pieces. But I really don't know what I do when I get to such inspirations. Well, I always do what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've heard you mention before that you had some work where you created like the next symphony for a famous composer or something like that. The convention I saw you at, that you had there was a certain composer who did like 6 symphonies, and so you made like a parody 7th symphony or something to that effect.
Ah, okay. That's yeah. Well, I just said I when I was working on a music on Oran High School Host Club,
Mhm.
I made some kind of parodies of the various classical music style, like from Baroque music to contemporary, and the main theme of the Oran High School Host Club is called the Oran Concerto for oboe, two horns, and strings. Sounds really like classical, but not only that, I parodied the style of the Brandenburg Concerto of Johann Sebastian Bach. And I personally call the piece like the 7 Brandenburg Concerto number 7. It means like, well, actually Bach wrote 6 Brandenburg concertos, so I added one more.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That's great. So vocals are an interesting thing for composers to include in background music, film scores, anime scores. With your style, again, taking a lot of inspiration from those great classical composers of history, a lot of what you include in your work is the great epic Latin choirs. So I'm curious, in writing those, where did the Latin lyrics originate from? And when you're conducting the scores, does it make it any more challenging to have a choir involved, or is it just like any other instrument? And what are some examples of when you've used vocals of other languages or other styles?
Well, yeah, just to say, like I use a lot of Latin text in my anime music, for instance, like Death Note, and even other Hunter x Hunter, some pieces from Hunter x Hunter, or others. And well, when I use the text from Latin text, the Requiem text, for instance, I intended to compose some kind of a requiem when I worked on a Death Note. Also, in an episode of Phantom Troops, Hunter x Hunter, I wrote the even darker requiem type of music. I even used the one of the pieces from Mozart Requiem as well. It's very dark and that stuff. And well, to express such kind of dark and dark atmosphere, the choir music with Latin text sounds pretty, good for me. And I really wanted to compose another requiem when I was working on a Phantom Troop episode of Hunter x Hunter. So it means I wrote 2 requiems for different anime. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was listening to both of those soundtracks today, and I saw the Requiem and Death Note pop up, and then Requiem, it was like Requiem Arania or something. I don't know, I think it means spider or something, but that Hunter x Hunter song pop up right after, and I was like, oh yeah, 2 Requiems. Yeah.
Well, the music on Death Note sounds more like modern, like sounds orchestra sounds modern. But on the other hand, the Requiem music in Hunter x Hunter sounds much more classical, and I wrote such music in a style of the late 18th, early 19th century style. So it sounds more, I guess, even darker than the music on Death Note.
And so in terms of the process of conducting an orchestra with a choir included, is that any more challenging, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, quite frankly, it's pretty much same. The classical composer got used to the conducting the choir with the orchestra, so it's not very big difference between just orchestra and the choir with orchestra with the choir. It's not very different for me.
Gotcha. And have you done any compositions that included vocals in a different style of singing or a different language other than Latin?
I have used other languages than Latin, of course, and I even have used some kind of imaginary language, the imaginary language sounds like, in a way, Latin or other, I don't know, imaginary country. Yeah. But I did that kind of things to express some kind of exotic atmosphere, but not only that, but also in Japanese anime often expresses the country in sight, where exactly where it is. You know what I mean. I mean, they create imaginary countries in imaginary site. When I work in the music for such kind of anime, I sometimes create the imaginary language, then make the choir sing it with such strange imaginary text, and create imaginary story in the imaginary country. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've definitely heard of several other composers who do the same kind of thing, just to kind of create that exotic atmosphere without using a real language. So we've been speaking about Death Note a bit. You're, of course, known for the big iconic orchestral symphonies throughout that series, but it's actually split half and half between those and the quieter, more rock-based pieces that the composer Hideki Taniguchi provided. So how is it decided in that series how the two of you would split up that work? And, was your process working on that project any different than it would be for a series that you composed all of the music for?
Well, the director wanted two different kinds of music, rock and classical music. So I took the classical music part, and Mr. Taniguchi took the rock music part. And as you know, Mr. Taniguchi is expert in rock music, so he could compose, music in his own style, and he could concentrate on composing music, his own music. And I did the same thing, so that's a very good thing. Yeah.
And so, kind of a similar situation, but a little bit different, is Hajime no Ippo, where in that case, the entire first season was composed or was scored by a different composer. And he had a very rock-focused style for his music in the first season. And then in the second and third season, you took over scoring the series. And, you have a very different style from that, obviously. So, was the fact that you were going into a series that already had one season with this rock soundtrack, did that change anything about how you approached the series, or did you just treat it as you would any new series for the first time?
Well, actually, I enjoyed watching first episode of Hajime no Ippo. I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of the first season of Hajime no Ippo, and I think that the rock music really effective, and that the boxing anime, it sounds really good. But when I took over the music of Ippo, I don't think I should compose music like first season. I mean, I'm not. First of all, I'm not a rock musician, and the director and sound designer didn't ask me to compose some kind of rock music like the first episode. Yeah, I just did what I can do. Yeah, that's all.
So, there seems to be kind of a common theme throughout a few of these, where you've stuck pretty closely to kind of your classical background and that sort of orchestral work. But then we come to Hunter x Hunter, which ran for 3 straight years, had about 150 episodes. It dramatically shifts tone and even genre throughout its arcs. And for that series, you were responsible for all of the music. You contributed about 150 to 160 plus unique tracks throughout the 5 soundtracks, including the 2 films. So, a project like that is very different. I would imagine it allows you to express a much more eclectic range of musical styles than many composers get to for a single project, certainly compared to some of the other ones we've talked about. So what were some of the challenges and freedoms that you experienced from that?
Well, actually, it was so fun to compose music for Hunter x Hunter. And I did a lot of stuff which I had never done before. So I should say, like, composing music for Hunter x Hunter was kind of challenging. And for instance, like, I wrote a bunch of rock music. Well, just you said before, for instance, like on Death Note, another composer took the part of the rock music. But in Hunter x Hunter, I did all myself. So, well, quite frankly, I'm not a rock music expert. So I had to learn the kind of music. And, well, of course, that was a good thing for me. So I learned a lot of stuff which I was not familiar with before. So Hunter x Hunter music. Well, through the Hunter x Hunter, I had a lot of, good chances to good opportunities to study music, which I was not familiar with before. So I really appreciate it, and so that makes the Hunter x Hunter music special for me.
Yeah, that you definitely got to flex your range in that project. And so in the later parts of the series, a lot of the songs that were used were actually introduced in the two films that you also scored, and they were included on those soundtracks instead of the TV soundtracks. So, in composing these songs, were they intended to be just used in the films, or did you write them in a way that they would intentionally fit later events of the series? And in general, how much direction are you given about how your tracks will be used, and how much is it just them using what you've provided, however it fits?
Mm. When I worked on music for film of Hunter x Hunter, the director and the sound designer said they wanted to use some music from a TV series as well. When I compose music, anime music, the director or sound designer always provide some kind of a list of the music. The list shows what kind of music and how many pieces, how many music they want. And I always compose music according to that. And unfortunately, I can't. I don't know which music is used in which scene. That's all sound designer's decision, their direction.
Mm-hmm.
But when I worked in a film, of course, I film scored some pieces.
So, we've been talking about a lot of series that you've composed the music for. There's are also some that you've contributed in other ways. So the Maria-sama ga Miteru series, you did some theme song arrangement for that. Working with the composer Mikiya Katakura, and he's also the composer for the group Alley Project, and you've worked with him on that group as well for some other projects. So how does the process of just arranging music compare to doing full composition?
Well, I haven't done. I haven't worked as an arranger for a long time, but when I compose music for anime or TV show or film, anything, I always asked to arrange the main theme song. When I work on that, I always try to make the melody very clearly, because the audience have to realize that music is actually the strength version of the main theme song, and they have to notice that. So I have to make the audience realize that. So it's very important to make that melody very clear. But when I worked with Mr. Katakura from Ali Project, he gave me a lot of freedom. So it was really fun to work with him. Well, actually, he gave me maybe too much freedom to me, because sometimes I used a very dissonant sound or even atonal in pop music. So it sounds very avant-garde, but I think they sound good, pretty good, but maybe some audience really confused what the hell is this or something like that. But yeah, it was really, really fun to work with him.
Yeah, definitely another Hunter x Hunter mention. You know, a lot of those soundtracks have the arrangements of the opening and ending theme songs as well. So yeah, definitely a lot of that throughout your work. So of all the songs that you've worked on for anime, which ones stand out as your favorites or the ones that you're most proud of?
Well, of course I love the music on Death Note and Hunter x Hunter, and especially the main theme of the Hunter x Hunter. Well, because when I worked on the main theme of Hunter x Hunter, my twin daughters were born at the time, so that situation made me the music very special. Well, it's very personal. And also, I personally love the music on Oran High School Host Club. Well, just as I said, the music on Oran High School Host Club is a kind of a parody of the different styles of classical music, like, baroque, classical, romantic, and even contemporary. So, yeah. It was really fun to work on Oran High School Host Club music. I still love that work.
Right. So for the Hunter x Hunter main theme you were talking about, is that the World of Adventurers, I'm guessing?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so that stands out the most for Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, well, I also love the music for the Chimera Ant episode. The music, the music on the Chimera Ant episode is really different from other Hunter x Hunter music.
Yeah, definitely.
I use a lot of dissonant and atonal things in there, and that was kind of very interesting for me because recently the composers don't use such kind of dissonant sound very much. Well, the composer in, for instance, like in the 60s and 70s, they use such kind of dissonant sound, atonal things. They often use that kind of stuff, but recently they don't do that much. They don't do that much. So I really wanted to use such kind of atonal, the contemporary music element to express the world of Ant. Yeah. So maybe some people would feel like what I did on music on Ant series. Well, kind of old fashioned, but actually, I don't care about that because I really wanted to express with using such atonal harmony to express the weird world of Chimera Ant.
Yeah, I think that arc is definitely most people's favorite in the series, and I think the music as well as the Chimera Ant arc has the best music of the series, so I definitely appreciated it. So, I had mentioned a little bit earlier, and I had mentioned this in a previous podcast episode about a year ago, that I had met you at a convention in Montreal. It was called Otakuthon, and it was close by to me. Fortunately, I'm very close to Montreal, but when I saw that you were going to be there, and I hadn't seen you listed on any North American convention before, and also that you were going to be conducting a concert of music from your anime, and it was billed as the first time you'd be doing that in North America as well. So I was very excited. I definitely had to go to see that. I got a seat front and center to watch, and it was a really great experience. So, I was kind of surprised for that to be your first event like that in North America. So I was curious, have you had many chances to be part of performances like that in Japan or anywhere else in the world? And, how does the experience compare with just your usual conducting of, a private session?
First of all, I'm a very shy person. I'm not good at appearing in public and talking. Yeah, I'm not good at it. So I had kind of avoided appearing in public. I didn't like, appearing in public and performing the music and stuff like that. I'm not good at it. But 3 years ago, I was invited to Bangkok, and the Thailand Philharmonic Orchestra premiered my music named Symphonic Suite Hunter Hunter, which is concert music version of Hunter Hunter music, and Hunter Hunter. I was so excited there, and actually, the other conductor conducted the music, but I was in the audience. But I was so excited, and I just felt, concert is not bad. Then after that, the Montreal called me, and if I was interested in appearing in public on the Ataktun, the anime convention, and I accepted, and I went there, and I had a really good time there. The concert was so fun, and audience were just wonderful. Audience was just wonderful, and that even made me feel like, wow, I really want to have shows more. So I don't know if I can say this. Next year, I'm going to travel to Russia to have some shows. Then maybe I'm going to do that kind of things from now on.
So is that your very first public conducting performance then?
No, actually, I have done so many times in Japan. Actually, I conducted orchestra and a concert halls, and when Ali project that I mentioned before, the band of Mr. Mikiya Katakura, his band, Ali project, when they had concert, I often joined the concert and conducted orchestra. So before Bangkok concert, I have had some shows in Japan, but especially the experience in Bangkok made me change my idea about the concert.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely glad that it changed your mind and that I got to experience that first big North American performance that you conducted. It makes it really special since it was such a new thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. A Montreal concert is I was really uneasy when I went to the Montreal, because the concert with using a lot of synthesizers and stuff like that, and I've never done that kind of thing before, because when I conducted the orchestra, it was just the orchestra, and I never conducted the orchestra with the synthesizers and computers. I've never done it before. So I was so wondering if I could do it well. But yeah, the experience in Montreal gave me a more encourage to stand on the stage. So it was good experience for me.
Yeah, it's great. So of course the state of the world today, as we record this in 2020, we have to address the fact that we're in the middle of this pandemic. It's been going on for the entire year so far. Japan had its first wave before the United States did, and we've both had a few, and Japan is doing a little bit better these days than we are over here in America. But it's definitely been a huge impact on everyone's lives and work. Now, I'm sure it's caused many of the projects that you've worked on to be postponed, and any conducting that you would be doing to record anything that you composed would probably have to be postponed.
Right.
How is that all impacted, and have you been able to continue doing the actual composition on your own, since you can do that part alone at least? And have you done anything else with that time away from other people?
Yeah, just to say, like the few of my project were postponed. I had plenty of time to do something else. Well, the pandemic is really awful, and I really feel like kind of down.
Mm-hmm.
But just as I said, like I had maybe it's kind of a chance to do something else. The most of my projects were postponed, and that means I have plenty of time to do something else. So I composed the concert music, which I was asked to compose last year. So I was just said like, last year I said like, I don't know if I have time to compose that, but yeah, let me try. Let me see if I can have time to do this. But because of the pandemic, I have plenty of time, so I composed the concert music that will be performed sometime in this fall or next year in somewhere in Europe. It's a totally different music from anime and other film stuff. It's a concert music, and so contemporary music. So. And also, I composed some other contemporary music, and I just recorded last month. And so it's pandemic, and it's awful time. But we have to do something. We have to move on anyway. So I can't wait. Next year, the pandemic will be gone. I hope it's gone, and we get back the normal life, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all hoping that.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking about anime mostly since, that's the focus of our podcast, and that's kind of what made me familiar with your work. So, something I do every time a new season of anime is about to begin is I check to see if any of my favorite creators, directors, writers, composers, studios are working on any new anime that I could check out. And of course, that includes you as my favorite composer. But since 2014, you haven't been doing as much anime work. You've done a few recent titles the past few years, but mostly for younger audiences. You're doing the Zoids series that's airing right now.
Right. Yeah.
But for the most part, for the past few years, you've been focusing on live action work. So I was just wondering, is there a particular reason for this? And, obviously you can't talk about any specifics of projects that haven't been announced, but in general, can people like me who are fans of the kind of anime we've been talking about, should we, have something to look forward to in the future?
Well, yeah, a few years ago, I met a film director, and I have worked with him mainly recently. So that means like I have worked on live action stuff mainly in these days. But I really want to compose music for anime as well. And fortunately, I have a couple of anime projects right now. And I'm gonna compose the music for anime, which will start next year. Well, unfortunately, I can't tell you what they are, but next year I'll be back to the anime world. So I want to check it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
So for anime, television series are still the most common form of anime, and for those, the two-channel stereo mixing is still the most common. And someone like you who creates these big, sweeping orchestral scores, I feel like that must feel somewhat limiting to you to not really be able to express the full breadth of your sound the way that surround sound can accomplish. So I'm curious, do you think that the industry will ever kind of leave the realm of stereo mixing outside of just movies? And how do you feel about that?
Well, actually, there's a limit to the stereo mixing. Yeah, I agree with that. In the anime industry, have to think about it, I guess. But on the other hand, the important thing for me is make the natural balance of the orchestra. Maybe stereo mixing is not very good enough to express the sound of the orchestra. Yeah, I think so. But a good balance of the instruments is the most important issue for me.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, or any messages that you'd like to put out there?
Okay. Well, just like I said, I was a self-taught composer until I was 20, and I went to the United States, and there I got the chance to study composition academically. And then I learned a lot of classical and contemporary music composition. And I still consider myself as a classical composer. I have done a lot of animes and films and live action works, and I am still just a composer. Well, if you call me an anime composer, I really appreciate it. But I myself I consider myself as just a composer, and I use a lot of orchestral music. I mean, a classical composer. I use a lot of orchestral sound, and one of the reasons why I use orchestra to express my music is that, well, I really want to introduce the orchestra music and classical music to the general audience. Recently, only classical music fans listen to the classical music. There are very, very few contemporary music fans. So the classical music and especially contemporary music is kind of forgotten in this world. They are just ignored. I don't like the situation, and I want to change the situation a little bit with my anime and film music. I use much more contemporary music materials and elements in my film music and anime music. And some people may be confused when they listen to such kind of dissonant and, in a way, dirty sound. But that's contemporary music element, and that's our music. It's music in our time. So if anyone of the audience, anyone of the anime fans feel like, oh, it's pretty good, it sounds cool, well, I want to listen to this kind of music more. That's my aim. I really want audience to introduce the classical music and the contemporary music. That's why I'm using a lot of classical and contemporary music elements in my music. So if any one of you are interested in my music, I want you to listen to other classical and contemporary music. I want you to check them. And if you like them, I'm very, very happy.
And I think that's a great message. I can definitely speak for myself, and this probably goes for a lot of fellow anime fans. We care a lot about the music of the series that we watch, and I think hearing those kind of elements that take inspiration from other styles of music definitely inspire us to go seek out the inspirations. So I think that's a really great goal to have.
Thank you.
So at the end of every podcast, we go around and give recommendations on things that we think the audience should check out or buy, and then we kind of go through and say where they can find us, and any other last words. So I'll go first for me in the podcast, and then I'll let you have the final word. So for my recommendations, it's fitting for this episode that I am recommending all of the works that we've talked about today. So, if you're looking for some anime soundtracks that you can purchase on CD in this country, you should definitely go to cdjapan.com. It's a great source for pretty much all Japanese media, CDs, Blu-rays, DVDs. And you can easily search in English for the titles you're looking for, the composers you're looking for, any of that. And if you do want to get Hunter x Hunter, which is one of my favorites, make sure you get all 5 of them, including the 2 film soundtracks, because like I mentioned earlier, a lot of those are used in the TV series as well as the films. So check those out. Also, Death Note is even easier to buy in this country. You can buy the first soundtrack on iTunes for a quick, easy digital download. And there's also a vinyl available recently. So you can get that at Tiger Lab Vinyl or WriteStuffAnime.com. So if you are a vinyl collector, like one of our co-hosts on this podcast, he bought that and he's very happy with it. So I suggest you do the same. As for where you can find the podcast, you can find us anywhere that podcasts are available. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you do get those. So we're on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We have an Alexa skill. We're also on Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, and fandompost.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at fandompostradio and get in contact with us there and via email at fandompostradio@gmail.com. And you can find me on Twitter at FullMetalKyoma. And for the rest, I will give it to you, Hirano-san. So any other recommendations that you'd like people to check out or buy or look forward to, or anywhere that they can find you, follow you?
Well, okay. If you have any chance to get any works, any of my works, any of my live action works, I'll be so happy. But I'm not really sure if we can get that kind of stuff. But in live action stuff, I have done so different things what I usually do in anime music. So maybe for some of you it might be interesting. So if you have any chances to get a soundtrack of my soundtracks of the live action stuff, live action works, I want you to hear and compare that with my anime music. That'll be fun.
All right, sounds good. And yeah, we will certainly be looking forward to hearing your upcoming projects. And again, thank you so much for joining us. This was really great to have you on, and I'm really honored that you chose to join us.
Well, thank you so much, and sorry for my English. I hope you understand what I said.
Yeah, it sounded great to me, so I'm sure it'll be great for everyone else. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.